You're looking at the first of the 5-digit Submariners, the 16800. It ran from 1979 to 88, and the first versions like this one had the matte dial with the painted on indices, and actually it was 81 that they started incorporating the unidirectional bezel. Welcome to Watch Symposium. I'm Austin. Listen to that wind outside. Going watch shopping today. You know I'm serious when I'm wearing the F91W on a NATO strap. All right, so I need to get ready. I need to get loop, cotton gloves, and I need to hit the bank first. All right, this is a stealthy operation, so I'm going to prepare. I'll meet you at the station. A 1970s Milgauss. The Milgauss started out with the Lightning second hand. They did away with it with this version, and then they brought it back for the current version. Yesterday's limit is today's nearly $30,000 watch. Here's an early 1016, back when it had the gilt dial, or mirror dial as this shop calls it. Here's a 1675. Look at those long minute marks. I believe this is what's called a radial dial. All right, so I'm at the station. I've got an envelope full of cash. Now, if you're looking for a satisfying payoff at the end of this video, you're probably gonna be disappointed. You know, I contemplated not even sharing this potential purchase on YouTube, but it seems kind of like a waste not to. This video is more about the buying experience, and here's the thing, I don't even know if I'm gonna get this piece, but even if I do, I'm gonna have to have time to sort of get to know it, you know, before I put it out there. You gotta love those old Submariner anchors that they used to come with. Kind of a shame they don't do that anymore. Here's a very early Submariner back when it didn't have crown guards. It was also quite a bit smaller than it. Kind of reminds me of the turnographs, about that size. And that makes sense because the Submariner was based on those turnographs. Of course, it's grown in size, it has crown guards, and eventually one version got the date. You got the older one on the left and the newer one on the right. 3 generations of the Submariner on a Rolex handkerchief. All right, now I will say that I feel half excited and half sick at the idea of spending this much money on a watch. And it goes to the buying experience, it really does. I mean, when I was getting ready this morning, I was thinking about the watch, and of course I was excited and thought, man, I mean, I'm gonna do this. But at the same time thinking, should I do this? I mean, is this a bad move? Is it irresponsible? Should I be, you know, investing this money in like the stock market or something like that? A Lennon dial 1601, and I remember back in the day you could get 1601s for 2,000 USD. To its left, you got a pipe hand dial. I remember seeing a pipe hand dial for 2,000, saying, nah, a little bit too expensive. I wish I had picked up 3 of them, 4 of them. But back then, you could just add another $2,000 or $3,000, and you could get a steel professional watch from the late 90s, 2000s, an Explorer 2, or even a no-date sub. So we weren't even thinking about these watches, but they're expensive these days. Now, I don't regret getting any of my other Rolex watches. I don't think anybody that bought a Rolex watch, say 3 years ago, regrets it, because they keep going up in price. So when I think about that, then all of a sudden I think, well, it's a good move. I mean, look, it made me feel sick to spend that kind of money on my other Rolex watches, my GMT, for example. But if I could go back in time and not do it, would I? What do you think? Here's a 34mm Air King with a really interesting bezel. I want to say this is a engine turn bezel of some sort, and Rolex doesn't make anything like that these days. That's probably a good thing. It's got a pretty dated look, but this is another model that you could have gotten for about $2 grand 5 or 6 years ago, and they've really started going up. Now, this really goes to Rolex and how they retain their value. And let me tell you, if I didn't believe this watch would go up in value, I wouldn't be getting it. I wouldn't be getting it because I don't need it. In fact, I think if you have one Rolex watch, you don't really need any more, okay? Do you want more? Absolutely. But do you need more? Probably not. But here's the thing. If they're going up, it sort of justifies it. And that's a big part of it. But again, if you pulled me aside and said, hey, this is going to go down in value, I wouldn't be doing this today. All right, enough talking. Off to Shinjuku. Here's an even older Air King with really retro hands. I want to say those are alpha hands. And look at that dial, those old school indices. And these are 34 millimeter watches. And I guess they offer a lot of value. I mean, in 2022, this is a good way to get yourself into a Rolex for as cheap as possible. Of course, the Achilles heel of these watches is they're 34 millimeters, and that's too small for a lot of people. And you risk somebody saying that you're wearing a girl's size watch. I still think that 34 is unisex, but of course, this is why we weren't buying these watches back in the day when they were going for $1,000. You know, we were avoiding them because of the size, and that really is why they're not going for more. All right, guys, so this is Akihabara Station, and I've got a transfer. So, look, I'm not really going to go into what watch this is, but I will say that it's relatively boring. Now, if you've seen my very early videos, I made a video about conceptualizing your ideal collection, and I had done that. I thought of 4 pieces that would really satisfy me long term, kind of take me out of the watch game, and I got 3 of them, and then I got an extra of one of those. But I never got this one watch because it was always a little boring. Now, why do I want it now? All right, well, one reason is because it's boring. Look, Rolex watches have gotten really, ostentatious when it comes to the modern pieces, and that sort of rolled over and, in my opinion, has changed the vibe of the pre-ceramic pieces, the ones that I love, the GMT, the sub. I mean, even those are sort of, whoa, you know, and that's great. I mean, maybe they haven't changed, but everybody's reaction to them has. And what happens when a Rolex guy stops wanting to wear his Rolex watch because it's just kind of too much? Well, I guess he goes for a more boring Rolex watch. So that's what I'm trying to do here. Very similar to that Air King we saw earlier. This is a 34 millimeter watch. It has that engine turn bezel. I think that's what it's called. And this has a date. It's an Oyster Date. And this was actually taken out of the catalog just 1 or 2 years ago. Nobody even noticed. A 39 millimeter OP, the end of an era. Well, we had them for such a short time. The era really didn't even start, and they're collectible. They're going for more than they sold for, but not compared to something like this. Now this is, and I'm trying to adjust the exposure so you can see it. This is a green dialed OP. It's 41 millimeter. Of course, on paper, that's quite a bit different, 2 millimeters, but apparently they're just about the same size. All right, guys, I checked out the piece. I'm on the street. What do I have on my wrist? My Casio still. All right, I'm, quote, thinking about it. Now, I checked out the piece. It's a beautiful piece. But hold on, let me clarify that. First of all, let's talk prices, okay? So, it was 767,000 yen, something along there. That and some change. And that's if you paid with credit card. If you paid cash, it was 752,000 yen and change. Now, they wouldn't budge on the price, and I asked her if she would do it for 750,000 yen even. That's like taking 20 bucks off the price. And she's typing in figures in her calculator and thinking about it, and like, And I was just like, okay, yeah, forget it. Don't worry about it. I'll think about it. She probably was going to do it, all right? She's probably going to do it. Why wouldn't you do it? $20, come on. I mean, for goodness sakes. I wanted them to take off more because it's never had a service. It's running +6. I'm going to have to get it serviced sometime. Here's the killer thing. It had been polished. Badly. They polished it. They fucked it up. Thank you for fucking up my potential watch. So I'd have to get that corrected at some point, which is not a big deal. And maybe I shouldn't let that stop me. But, you know, seeing these, they weren't uneven. It's just I could tell it had had a third-party polish. It just kind of made me irate. And I was like, I want compensation for your fuck up. And I want it in the form of a cheaper piece, and they wouldn't budge. So I got to think about this. Will I come back? Maybe. It's out there. They're going to put it out there. They're not going to ship it back to Osaka. Will somebody buy it out from under me? Maybe. I'm willing to risk it, but yeah, beautiful dial. I love the dial. Flawless. But it was the case. They screwed up the case. You know, if it had just had some wear on it, but it hadn't been messed with, I would have been fine with it, but got cute with it, try to spiff it up, and under the loop, just those lugs didn't look quite right. I gotta walk away from it. I'm just not feeling it. You know, sometimes you have these situations where you're kind of like, I don't know. That, you gotta walk away. Other times, you get butterflies in your stomach thinking like, okay, I gotta pull the trigger on this. I can't walk away from this. I can walk away from this. So there you go. All right. Well, that was an interesting day, and now I got a bunch of cash I need to put back in the bank. All right. Okay, guys. Thanks for watching. Let me know what you think. Take care. See you next time. All right. And here's the piece, a 36mm date just. This is a 16200. It's an F serial from 2004, and it's got the smooth steel bezel and an oyster bracelet and a beautiful silver tapestry dial, and one of my favorite versions of the tapestry dial. They've got a few different variations, and you can see the lugs that turned me off. I don't know if you're seeing what I saw. I was using a loop. One other thing, didn't come with tags, and I think it was the right era box, but I don't think it was the box that it came with. It did have papers. And why do I want to get one of these? Well, that's perhaps a subject for another video. I mean, why wouldn't I go modern? Yeah, I've got my reasons. I could go look at more watches. I don't want to. I'm bummed. I just want to go home.